Hi folks, very cold day today, nice and warm in here. We've got this little radiator on, so that's not too bad. And anyway, today I'm going to be painting a bunch of radishes. Believe it or not, this is actually a commission that I've had. Somebody wants a painting of some radishes for a Christmas present. So I'm going to start that in a moment. I'm going to start it slightly different than I usually do. Usually I do the grid on here, and then I make sure the drawing is fairly accurate to start with, and I correct the drawing as I go along, as I've mentioned in previous videos. What I want to do today is keep the drawing quite simple and mass in the lights and the darks and then refine it. The reason being, because these radishes are organic and they don't need to be drawn as accurately. I mean, they do need, the proportions need to be correct, but I'm not too fussed about it being absolutely precise. Okay, I'm still going to use the viewfinder, but I'm just going to mark it into a simple cross, just so that I can position everything where I want. I have looked at the composition obviously already, and I've got an idea how I want this to look. There's quite a strong shadow cast by the leaves on the right hand side of the image, and I want that to be quite prominent. So let's just get this right. So there's a knot in the radishes where they're tied together. That would go there. So that's my kind of landmark that I use from now on. That's the right hand side. And then from the top of the centre there's kind of a diagonal that comes down here, and that's the shadow that I was talking about. It's probably actually a bit shallower angle than that, so it's probably more like that. Okay, and then it comes down here. Knots there, so there's an angle where the radishes come down here. So I'll really, from now on, I probably don't actually need this. It was just to get that main position. Let me get the right hand side and then we're sorted. So the radishes come to about here. Directly below. So the shelf is somewhere along here. Make sure I get this right. So actually that would be there. Move this out the way now. That's actually the back of the table that they sat on. I've been thinking, just let me get some tissue. I've been thinking about this live stream that I'm going to do in a couple of weeks' time, on what to do in that sort of time, because it's probably only going to last, I don't know, an hour or so. Nobody's going to want to sit online for sort of hour after hour watching me do a complete painting. So I've been thinking about what I could do on that live stream, and I've had this idea about talking about drawing. I thought if I'm going to do a monthly live stream, it might be useful to have some structure to it, or than just ad-libbing. And I think to make it beneficial for people, what I might do is break it down into the kind of key elements that are important in a picture, creating a painting. And number one is drawing. If your drawing's not very good, or your drawing's awkward, it can really just destroy the painting, because That's the first thing people see. People will know straight away if the drawing's inaccurate. So I'm going to talk about different approaches to drawing. So for example, I mean today I'm doing a very loose drawing because I'm not too concerned about the accuracy of this. But then sometimes I will do a far more accurate drawing if it's something like, I don't know, a teapot or coffee pot or something like that. And I was going to talk about the process. The process I'm using here is I start off with a big shape. So I could see that, for example, I'll demonstrate it now. I'm just looking at big shapes and also negative space, like this negative space here. That's helping me to get the drawing in place. So I might go over some of those techniques for simplifying drawing. There are loads of things that you can do that can help. Measuring, comparative drawing, massing in large shapes. There's things like putting an envelope, almost a visual envelope around the drawing that you're doing in your head. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about it now because obviously it's going to be on the live stream and I need to think a little bit more about it anyway. That's my idea. If you have any thoughts on that, then just let me know. Right, now this radish is quite large and it's sat slightly higher up in the image than this one, and there's another smaller one here. The other thing I've been thinking about are these videos, and it's great that people are signing up. I'm really pleased about that people are signing up to watch, but I'm conscious that a lot of people are signing up thinking that these are sort of dedicated tutorials as such, and that's not what I intended when I started this. What I actually wanted to do was just record what I do, and hopefully there'll be some sort of benefit in there for people who are watching. So I don't want to go down the purely sort of tutorial route, because there are so many people that do that anyway, and they do it really well, and they've dedicated to that alone. In all honesty, my my income comes from selling paintings. I make very little money on Patreon. As you're aware, it's £2 to £8 a month. It's not great. You need hundreds and hundreds of subscribers to make that pay. So I can't put in the time into and the equipment and all that kind of thing that goes into making tutorials, which is probably going to disappoint some people. And like I say, there are so many good ones out there. So I'm still this channel's evolving. I hope that what I'm doing at the moment people are finding sort of beneficial. Right, just let me get this leaf in. This is a big leaf here that's going to catch the light and be quite sort of prominent in the painting. Where I got the idea from for this channel was there's a couple of places really. There are some sort of, have you heard of ASMR? It's these kind of videos where people just record themselves doing things, and it's all about the sound. It's supposed to be sort of like almost like a therapy type thing where you just listen to the sounds and you watch, and there's almost no talking. Well, most of them there's no talking in there. And I mean, I get a lot from painting in terms of relaxation, calming, stress-free sort of thing. And I was hoping that would come across in the paintings, in the videos. So that's one kind of place that the ASMR was one sort of idea behind the videos. The other place was I watch we make some pottery. My wife and I have got a pottery studio, and there's a guy that we've followed on there for years and years and years, a guy called Simon Leach, and he's been making YouTube videos for as long as I've known about YouTube, in all honesty. So this is a massive dark shape here, so I'm not going to go into any detail there. Okay, so that's going to essentially do, where's that shadow come? Shadow kind of comes here and here, and then there's a leaf there. Okay, so yeah, so we've been watching Simon Leach's videos, and like I say, he's been doing these videos for years and years and years, and all he does, he basically records himself making pots. I mean, he makes his living from selling pots. He's got a massive YouTube following, so he probably does make some money from that as well. I'm going to get the background colour in first, and that will allow me to judge the shadow value. So yeah, so Simon Leach does these videos. He just records himself doing what I'm doing now. He's doing his job and he's making his pottery, but he talks about what he's doing. They tend not to be dedicated tutorials. He does run courses for potters, and there is an element of tuition in there, but they're more of a vlog, a video log of what he's actually doing. So that's what I've got in mind for this channel, really. And I don't know how that ties in with what people's expectations are, because I've had so many people contact me with questions about, oh well, would you do this? Would you share all the details about the palette? Would you do a video on colour mixing? And not really, to be honest, because like I say, my income comes from selling paintings. And I've got to make sure I do that. If I don't make the paintings, I don't have an income. And I just thought, while I'm doing the paintings, I might as well record it. So probably I'll upload this video and everybody will unsubscribe. Maybe I should be a bit more secretive about what my thought processes are. Maybe I'm sort of, oversharing. Right, this background, I've used this board loads of times. It's an old panel that I never actually painted on. And it's quite a warm sort of ochre type colour. So I've added a bit of raw umber to this because I want to actually cool it down. The yellow ochre was too warm. It's more, as again, I always say, it's more about the value than it is the colour. Probably gone too cool now. And it's kind of variegated as well, the background is. So I might, what I might do is put some palette knife into it. Don't seem to be getting any closer here. I might add some texture with a palette knife. See, that has gone way too pink. I don't want it pink because the radishes are pink. That's better. I have to put more white in it in a minute. I'm going to mix plenty of this up. I mean, with the background colour, I always kind of mix loads, because later on in the painting I almost certainly will need to come back to it and tweak bits and soften edges and all that sort of stuff. And if you've got the background colour mixed up already, you're sort of guaranteed that it will be exactly the same. Still needs to be more yellow. I'm going to have to go for cadmium yellow. So yeah, with the channel, I don't know whether it's just air my thoughts and people can make their own mind up, obviously, if it's not what they want. That's better. I'm getting there now. Okay, so I've got that. Let's get that on, and then I can mix a dark into it and see how that compares to the shadow. A big scruffy brush. I want this to be quite loose, this painting. I don't want to get too fussy. And I'm squinting down and I'm just literally going to charge in there and not worry too much. There's some nice highlights on the sort of the stalks of the radishes. And one thing I do want to get in, I've tied them together with some string, and there's a lovely shadow that comes on this bit of the wall here. So that is something that's going to go in. Yeah, the problem with doing videos is, obviously, you know, I mean, I've got two options. I could sort of paint in silence and you could just watch me paint. A bit like the ASMR things that I was talking about, the ASMR videos, and that would almost certainly knock you out. Or I could rattle away like I am doing now. But the risk I run there is I'm going to talk too much and say things that don't make any sense, and because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. You've probably noticed that already in a few of the videos. When I was calling the cherries plums and things like that, you know. But as they all say at the moment, it is what it is. See this shadow, these leaves are already moving. It's amazing. Right, now the shadow comes down here and it's really dark and it's really sort of raking shadow, and I quite like it. Setting up the radishes of the still life was a bit of a challenge because sort of these floppy leaves keep falling over, so that's this shadow here. All this is dark. Right, I'm going to leave that as is and mix up the shadow value in there. Right, I'm just going to clean my brushes, clean this up and move some things around. I'm going to save this colour as I said, and I'm going to put that at the side over here. You can't see it on the camera, but I'll just kind of store it on a little bit of glass that I've got there. I'll show you this under the camera. So I used the safflower oil to try and get the bulk of the paint off the brush. It won't get it all off, but the safflower oil sort of keeps the brush in really good condition. I have noticed that when I used to clean my brushes with solvent, Gamsol, they just wore out so quickly. It really is quite harsh on the brushes. Right, now I'll get this cleaned off. I do use some solvent to clean this glass panel off. So a little bit of solvent on the there, and just wipe that off. I'm sure you could probably figure that bit out yourselves. Right. Just in terms of the work that I've got lined up and I'm planning, I've got two paintings I've got to do, two sort of little commissions. There's this one that I'm doing, and then there's another one that involves one of those mocha pots that I've painted before. Again, that's another commission. And then I'm thinking, see this is, I glance back now and I can see that that's too dark, but I can lighten that up later. Can I? No, I'm going to do it now because I've got this colour mixed. So that was a waste of 5 minutes. It's lighter and yellower. Quite a cool yellow. There. Okay, so what I might do is quickly scrub that off. Get the bulk of it off at least anyway. Actual fact, when I wipe it off, that sort of gives me a colour similar to what I'm after. don't want to be too precious about this. Not moving it. There we go. Right. Let's try again. That's better. That's more like it. So yeah, I've got this to do. I've got painting of a marker pot, and then I was thinking about what to do next. This lady that's commissioned this one has also asked me to do a painting for her husband of a decanter, but I'm sort of reluctant to do it because she wants me to paint from a photograph, and I really don't enjoy doing that. And the whole point of me doing this job is to do what I want to do. I have done, I mean, I very, very rarely sort of accept commissions because I usually don't enjoy doing them. However, oh, is that my, oh, camera's gone again. This is a pain, this is, let me just, give me a second, let me get the camera working. Okay, hopefully the camera's working now. Now I was saying about the commissions, I used to take them, but I found I just really don't enjoy doing them. Because people will start, the minute it's a commission, you're kind of obligated, and people start to ask you to change things or do things a certain way, you know, even down to what to include in the painting. Compositional things that they'll say, oh, can you move this over and all that sort of stuff, and I really, you know, that's not what I'm doing it for. This is my work. I mean, that sounds dreadful, doesn't it? This is my work, but it is my work, and you know, I want some ownership over it. So although I have to make a living, I hope that what I do will what I like will appeal to people, and I'm really grateful to the people that buy the work. I really am. I've got a few people now that have bought several paintings, and it's, you know, it's really sort of gratifying. So anyway, once I've done these commissions, once I've done these commissions, I want to do possibly some larger paintings. Maybe after Christmas, I'll get Christmas out of the way, and then after Christmas think about doing some larger pieces. You may have seen the work of Henk Helmantel that I shared. I mentioned after in the last painting that I did of the cherries. I've always loved his work, and I went through a stage of doing larger still life paintings that were very, very highly finished. And they're really time consuming to do. But what I'm thinking now, my approach to painting has changed since then, and I'm thinking now of doing this kind of style but on a bigger scale with bigger brushes. Okay, right now I want to get the shadow in. All this is shadow here, and it's really dark in comparison to this background colour. Let me get this stored. There, okay. So I'm going to mix this dark colour up. It's basically the colour I've had, but with lots more raw umber in it, and it is very dark and raking. And I'm going to have to do quite a bit of blending because it, you know, the edge of the shadow tapers away, and it's quite soft. So yeah, the work. I really like that kind of serene feel that Helmantel's paintings seem to have. They're very peaceful, I find. If that makes sense. And yeah, I'd like to maybe do some larger paintings, but in the style that I've done these smaller pieces. Right, now, the shadow here it's cool. There's reflection from the green leaves that's sort of cooling it down even more. That's quite a bit of raw umber. I'm even going to add some cobalt blue to that to cool it down even more. possibly some Payne's grey. The cobalt blue might do the job. Get some white in it just to lift it a touch. So I could see, if you can't, sometimes when you're mixing darks like this, see that's way too light, but I just wanted to see where it sat in terms of colour, hue and temperature. That makes sense. When it's very, very dark on the panel, on the glass, it's very hard to judge the hue in particular. So by adding a bit of white to it, you know, I've done too much there, but if you add a bit of white to it, it will give you an idea. So now I've got to remix that. And then of course the next thing that I want to do is see how this relates to what I've put on the panel already. I actually think that's probably right. It looks very dark there on the knife, but that's because it's against the white panel. I want it very dark because there's a couple of leaves that really stand out against it. I'm going to put it on and see how we go with that. So again, I'm using that big scruffy brush. I squint down and I could see and that leaf that I was talking about is around about here. I'm going to take some of the background colour, just add it in there. Probably a bit more. Down here. Now this radish here you can see the edge of it. All of this is, I've got to make sure I don't lose that little leaf that goes there. These leaves actually go higher up there. I've done them too low, so let's take that out. See, my drawing, I'm trying to sort of be a lot less precise with the drawing, and then what I will do is try and refine as I go. And that one could go even higher as well. So that leaf there is above that. And this hopefully just demonstrate, you know, you can be really abusive with oil paint and get away with it, wipe it off, correct it. You don't have to be too fussy with it. So there, that's the shadow. Then within here, I'm going to add a touch of green to this. Got a little bit of sap green because I want the same value. It's virtually identical value in there. Here, just the edge of one breaking through that shadow. Now this leaf. It's further over. A little bit. Right, I don't want to pull pollute that grey too much. Just clean this brush off. Down here, so there's that radish. Let's get these greens masked in now. So I need to mix up a variety of greens. I'm only going to do the leaves, I'm not going to do the stalks yet. And we have a range from very, very light to very dark. Mixture of bluey greens and yellowy greens. Simplify it down into big shapes to start with. That's a very yellowy green, that's way too yellow. Add a touch of phthalo green to it to lift the chroma a little bit. Might add some Payne's grey to it actually to darken it and cool it a little bit. How's that look? That's absolutely spot on for that area there. So now I'm going to use a different brush actually, quite a big ivory flat. Again, still with the solvent. So that's that colour there, so that goes here. Touch more blue to that and cool it down a little bit now. If I don't go too far. Because that leaf turns towards the light, so this side of it seems to go a little bit lighter there. And it's a very light patch across that way. Right down there. Every time I'm stopping, I'm basically just wiping the excess paint off this brush. Not getting it super clean, but enough that it's not going to pollute the next colour. Right, so I need to get that dark green again. Too dark, a bit of Payne's grey in it to cool it, and then oh, that's nowhere near. See, that shadow is a very, very blue shadow in there. That's better, that's dark enough. I was squinting and I could see these shadows come down here, and then on that side of that leaf, in here there's some. And where's that leaf that I was talking about? So there is a leaf. It's quite dark against the background, and this one is. And that. You have to excuse me talking to myself. A lot of ambiguity in here. I'm trying to keep this as one shape if I can. In there, that green within this leaf, I've got to make sure that it's dark, but it's a different hue. And there's a curled over edge there that I need to keep. Clean up. I keep getting oil on the brush handle because it's on the gloves. It's it makes the brush really slippy. So I need the light green actually. Let's get the light green mixed. Blue. A little bit of turquoise I've got at the side here. How's that look? That's a bit more yellow than that. Say grey, I should say. Less chromatic, that's a better description. So what I've done to make it less chromatic is add the complementary opposite. So we had a very sort of bluey green, and to drop the chrome I just added some of this sort of yellow ochre into it. And my understanding is because that's on the opposite side of the colour wheel, it will lower the chroma. Right, that'll be okay. I'm going to have to tweak it later, but it'll be okay for what I'm trying to do now. So let me make sure I get this right. So there's a big leaf here. And that just completely disappears into the background, which is good. I really don't like this slippery brush. Now, there's the curled over leaf I was talking about. When you start fiddling, you should put the mark down like that and leave it alone. rather than coming back and tweaking it. These stalks down here are very bright green, but I will put this in and then I can lay that bright green over the top of it. There's a dark in there. Very yellowy green actually. Very tempting, and I'm finding myself doing it again, is to sort of start refining this too soon. So let's just get back to basics. I want dark all the way down here, dark in here, dark down there, dark down there, dark down there. Okay. Some dark up here. Slightly confused up there. Yellow in here. Sort of chaotic mixture of colours going on in there. I think I need to get the values of the radishes put in to give me some idea of relationships. I'll work on all the leaves and refine all that stuff later. Let's get some of these greens saved. That grey shadow colour saved, that can go next to light. Okay, I'll clean this up and then I will mix up the colour for the radishes. Okay, so the radishes go from very, very dark red put some transparent red oxide into it and a little bit of blue or violet. Okay, so that'll be the darkest part of the radishes, which sat at the back in there. And then let's see if I can move that around towards the brighter pinks, which are on the lit side. And there's some very high chroma on these as well. So I've got some quinacridone, I think it's quinacridone rose, I think it is there. A bit of, now that's transparent, and I've had a bit of cadmium red into it. It's probably gone a bit too warm, that. There we go. Because these are the red on these radishes is quite a cool red. So we'll just put a bit of crimson into it. That's actually not too bad. I could actually make it. And then now I'm going to clean this knife off. The highlights are really, really, really light pink. Like that, very, very light pink. And then we have obviously a transition between those. Okay, that's going to do for a start. I'm going to get a smaller long flat brush. Start with the darks. And it's in here is the darkest dark. There is a little bit of the background in there, which I'll put in later. The background board colour. The reason I've left that little bit of white is there's some stalk that comes up here, and I don't want, when I paint that in, that mixing with the red. Whether that'll work or not, I don't know. Now he is dark. One down, two down, two more to go. Like I said earlier, the only reason I agreed to do this painting was because it's something that I probably would have painted anyway. I've painted radishes quite a lot in the past, and it kind of fitted in with what I normally do. That goes a little bit more violet there. I've got to be careful with that. Some of the chroma drops. There we go. Then it chromed back up down here for some reason. Let's get onto this one. Okay, same again, dark. Quite as dark as this one in the background, but still pretty dark across the top here. There is some reflected light in this one, so that goes cooler there. side, so I'm always relating one value to the value that it's next to, so this side of this radish is lighter than that dark shadow there. And then that's it, something like that. And then at the bottom there is some reflected light. Oops, sorry. High chroma here, high chroma there. Almost orange. Let me get some. So on this side here, this gets really light and high chroma. I have to lighten it. To lighten it, I'm going to have to put some yellow into it, I think, rather than white, because if I put white in, it's going to cool it too much. So here, this corner is really, really bright. Let's have some of this rose madder to see what that's like, with a bit of yellow in it. Not sure about that. No. Clean the brush off. That's this radish at the front here. That's where I want the highest chroma, and then down on this one here. In fact, I need to wipe some of that off. That's really, really pink, bright pink. Let's take some of that. Now, to try and use transparent paint, that might help. There. So I've got crimson alizarin, which is transparent. A little bit of the rose madder, which is transparent. And putting it on the white panel, hopefully that's going to be really, really sort of bright and chromatic. To go darker there. Then we're into the pinks. White here. Okay, that's okay to start with. Have a quick glance around everything. Now I can see that those stalks have got to be a bit darker. Now I've got those reds in, allow me to judge how dark the stalks and things like that are going to be. We just get the tabletop and the dark shadows underneath in, and then I can start reworking it. Or so I'll keep that there. So the tabletop is this ochre type colour. I should have used a different brush really, bigger brush. That's it. They are actually very similar in value, that radish and that table. And there's a green leaf here that I didn't put in. That light green. Let me get that in now. Too intense, that is really. Knock it back a bit. Probably have a bit more paint on here. Okay, now let's get the darks mixed. Really need to put more of these browns out. Actually, really dark. Actually, those shadows. Silly. Should get that line horizontal. Right. And go darker still. There. There is a chink of light kind of coming through here. Okay, and then let me get those little patches of the background colour put in while I'm here. It'd be great if, I'm just thinking, you know, I was talking earlier about the video and what I was hoping to get from this, or what I was hoping to offer rather than what I was hoping to get from these videos. And I've had absolutely zero feedback from anybody who's watching it at the moment. It'd be good if people would sort of just get in touch, say whether you're enjoying what I'm doing, whether you think it's a load of rubbish, if it's wasting your time. what you hope to get from it, all of that sort of stuff. I mean, I can't guarantee I'm going to change what I do or even be able to meet your expectations, but obviously the more I hear from people, the more I'll have an idea about whether I'm wasting my time or not. Dark green in there. This is the one I was talking about before. Okay, quickly soften all of that off, and then I'll be able to start to rework it. So, get my little Hackney brush. Now for this bit I do need to see what I'm doing. I'm blind as a bat without my glasses, so I didn't even know they were there. All of this is quite loose. Actually, what I'm going to do is, this is the bit that's important, this shadow here. I want this one to almost disappear in there, so. Okay, so that'll give me a good basis to work on. I think this shadow has got to go bluer and a little bit darker in places. So, and I need to make the background a little bit lighter just to give that contrast. But that's, just let me blend them a little bit more actually. We have a good starting point at least anyway. This can come off here, this side. Okay. Right, I'll go and get some lunch and then I'll carry on later. Okay, I'm back. One thing, having a break is really good, because when you walk back and look at painting again, straight away the errors that you kind of don't notice beforehand pop out. So I'm looking at this now, and clearly all of this side of the painting needs to be a lot darker. So that's the first thing I'm going to get on with, and I'm going to start with that dark shadow that's on the right hand side. I've still got some of the shadow value colour that I mixed up before. I'm actually going to darken it with a little bit of Payne's Grey and a little bit of raw umber. How's that looking? I could probably go even darker than that. In fact, I'm going to add the tiniest speck of violet into it because it's quite cool. How's that looking? That's better. Right, so I'm going to use a fairly big brush. That's why I always, generally when I'm doing these paintings, it takes me until sort of lunchtime or late morning to get the blocking done. Then I go and have a break, come back to it, and it's just so much easier to then judge where you need to change things. So now I'm moving away from using the turpentine. I'm going to put, telephone. Right, I'll try again. Okay, so let me switch that off. So yeah, I'm going to darken all of this. I've mixed up that darker grey, and I'm going to use linseed oil to get the paint on there. Okay. Now up here it's a bit confusing actually, because there's a leaf and it kind of merges with the shadow. That shadow needs to be a touch warmer. That's better. That's better. When I squint, I can see the relationship much better. Now we come down here. Well, that's probably not that far over. It's probably there the shadow is. Okay. Then down here, obviously, I think I got that not too far off before. Again, a touch warmer. I'm going to add a little bit of transparent red oxide. There must be a bit of light bouncing up off. Well, it's warmer because you've got light from the radishes and you've got the light from the desk. There's the leaf that's drooped down here, just in there, so I'll leave that. So we've got lots of reflected light, which is changing the hue of this shadow very slightly. It's just gone warmer, yellower, warmer. There, that's better. The more you look at these things, the more you see. Yeah. Even I can kind of even see orange in there, in this shadow. So above here, there's oranges in there. That's better. It does change actually. There's orange orange in the shadow that is closest to the leaves, or at least a very warm grey, and then as it tapers away it becomes cooler, and that's that boundary between the background colour and the shadow. Right, I'm going to have to do a bit of blending on here now. So I'm using the sable brush, soft sable brush. And I don't want anything within this shadow that's really sort of going to grab your attention, so any kind of transitions between these colours that I've put in need to be quite subtle. I don't know why I'm squinting. I do this all the time. Squinting's brilliant. You know, when you start your painting, that blocking stage, you definitely need to squint, and you squint really hard. The problem is, I find I squint all the time now. It's really strange. It's just got such a habit of squinting that even when I'm gardening, I'll be deciding where to put the roses or something, and I'll start squinting. I squint at everything. I'm going to move it that way because that's the way the light's falling, and it's just going to help, I think. Paint's getting very thin. I've talked about this before. When you start to blend, you can overblend and you end up wiping the paint off. It all ends up all over your brush, and actually not on the panel. It's all coming back to the squinting thing. I did a painting recently, and put it on the page on Patreon. It was the one of the green bowl, and I made a deliberate effort not to squint as I was getting to the sort of later stages of the painting, and I think I did a much better job of the painting. Right, now, so here, as we get further away you get from the object that's casting the shadow, the softer the edge of the shadow becomes. See, I'm beginning to wipe off paint here now. Okay, right, so that's dark, and then the leaves are even darker, so I'm going to clean this off. So I've got to go even darker with these greens. I'm going to use some of this mixture, get some green into it, and this is quite a warm green. It's this sap green, but I'm getting really low on it. That's nice, that sap green. Okay, so I don't know why I've got that light, so that the leaves have moved. The leaves have moved since I went in for lunch. Try to be a little bit more precise with this than I was before. I'm actually just watching the leaf droop in front of my eyes. That is the problem with painting things like this. You know, it's never going to stay the same. Right, I need to get a bit more chroma into this. Feels very blue, that does, and I don't probably want it that blue. Get some raw umber into it, it will warm it slightly, still keep it dark. That's better. I don't know why this is so light down here, it's completely changed. And then there's a leaf here, and underneath it's very dark. I get more toward yellow. So there's a big dark shape in here. It's fairly nondescript in hue. There. That's sort of disguising some stalks here. And then similar things going on here. Those stalks there. Down here, it's very tempting to make this actually lighter than it actually is. Yeah, they're like a grey, greeny grey colour. And that shape goes up there and then becomes very green. The cooler. A big leaf here that's quite cool. And then we've got this bluey grey type leaf here. time is it now? It's 1 o'clock or something. 1:10. My daughter's just sent me a message saying good morning. Probably just got out of bed. She's excited, she's got a hockey match today and she's been picked for the first team. Which is brilliant. Bulk of this paint off here, and then I'll try and get these very light stalks put in. I'm trying to use this big brush rather than revert it to a little tiny one because I want to keep the painting quite loose. But it is tricky to manage. The leaf that was here earlier on has completely drooped. I'm going to mark something in there anyway. And that will sort of disappear, I think. Got to go in with some darker greens now. was looking at earlier when I saw that. It's nothing like what I've got on here. It was obviously the leaves have moved. Make that darker. It's all pretty dark in here. I don't want it have it inconsistent, so I'm going to make it all dark. Soften all that off a little bit. Just get that. This leaf up here has completely changed shape. And this one here has completely changed shape. So just to unify all this, I'm just using this, that's silly, using this blending brush. It's really greasy, this brush, this handle of this brush is. Getting on the brush handles, which is making them slippy. Let's get that blending brush again. Now the key to using this brush is to blend, but don't blend everything away. Or drag, but don't drag everything away, because you just lose your drawing and everything then. after. So in here, it's all a bit vague. I can keep making it darker, and I can make it even darker still. Pick out one or two little edges. Try and get some cooler colours on this side now where the shadow is. Which will hopefully work quite well with the background. Try not to overdo this. One thing, if you find something works, it's very easy to just keep doing it and then just wreck what you paint, wreck your painting. Right, in here I want to get this, there is some string in there. Actually that big leaf that I've just put in isn't working. Let's get some thick ridges of paint in here. Keep stepping back and having a look. it's just a case of refining and refining, and you decide how far you want to refine things. Yeah, you can go on and on and on. There's some string here, and I need to. I do need to get that marked in. That's better. Before I get onto that string, I'm just going to try get some bright highlights in on these leaves on the left hand side. It's catching the light. It's not that colour. catch the light. So although the leaves have changed massively and I'm having to kind of ad lib a little bit, but what I'm looking at is how I can make this still visually interesting. So things like the highlights that might catch the light, the some soft edges, some hard edges, all of those things. Some ambiguity, some clarity. I mean, actually, it's not too bad. The focus is going to be the radishes, which I haven't even got to yet. I better get a move when I get to them, because I could spend ages fiddling with this. So here, there are some stalks. Too much of them and become a feature otherwise. I'm piling the paint up on one side of the brush and just get it quite thick. I'm using that little ridge to just drop. So I'll get some of this yellow. So like this, get a little ridge of paint. Flick it in there. And they will catch the light. Now, these bits are actually super blue, super cool. this string. Go with the dark first of all. Now I need some of that grey that I had for the shadow, because this string is casting a shadow. It touches the wall here. And then this shadow comes down here. It's very dark in there. just to sort of suggest that string. Tiny little stumpy brush I use for blending. Never find it when I want it. Although this is only a little part of the painting, I want to get this bit right because I mean all of this is very ambiguous and scruffy almost. This bit has to be precise because if this bit's really nicely painted, it'll help the rest of the painting to just improve the rest of the painting, I think. Sometimes these little sort of tiny details can really massively help. Touch further down. Fluff or something there. Now then, where's that little? So I need to get another brush. Just to help this a little bit, I'm going to put some background colour on. clean tissue. Okay, right, let's get on with these. Stick a black knuckle in there, actually. A couple of things I want to do actually while I think about it. Let's switch this off. That has to be done much darker. See, this leaf has drooped even more now. have a clean up. Okay, let's start on these radishes again. So let's get that dark first. I need some transparent red. I think as the light moves in this room, I just keep having to darken things. That transparent red. Let me stop this. Okay. Keep looking and thinking, do I need to make it darker still? I think I possibly do. In here, for example. It is really dark in there. Well, these were visible this morning, and in fact I'm going to move that one of the leaves has just completely obscured this one. Move that leaf. And what I'm going to have to do, I'll pause this, I'm going to have to cut the leaf off. Okay, hatchet job done. These stalks are going to have to be painted back over again in a moment. Now let's get this other one done. So it's really dark on this top side here. A little bit grey. Some reflected light up here. I think it must be reflecting from the leaves actually. Let's take a bit of green. Get the very bright reds in first. Rose and some card red. Probably needs to go a bit. Very dark and very intense. That's it. Get it on nice and thick. cadmium red's a little bit too orange, I think. Definitely don't want these ridges of light. Ridges to catch light, I should say. It's much darker in there. Retain what I got in the blocking. I'm losing some of that. Let's just soften that off a little bit. Wipe off a tiny section to see if I can get some intensity in the colour. See about this. It's much easier to get the intensity through the transparency of the paint than it is. That looks better already. See, than it is through mixing with white. Make sure this brush is clean. I get a really bright colour if I can. Now I'm just wondering whether to use the Rose Madder. Let's try that first of all. I think, oh, crimson. Let's try the crimson as well. That's a bright red, isn't it? To go on nice and thin. Yeah, that's working. Some white into this. See how adding the white cools it down. important thing here is not to lose the thing that I just gained. Now I need to blend this very gently. Find a nice soft brush. Because I don't want any of these lines in it. A speck of white, I think, in a moment. Just be careful I don't wipe off too much paint. Side there is some reflected light. To by a country mile. Too light. Blue in that just here. This is a balancing act between the value, getting enough paint on, but not too much. A touch more blue in that. That's nice, that blue, that just helps a little bit. I could give you a light there. What I was saying is a balancing act, getting enough paint on that you can actually, it has an impact, but then also being able to move it around without wiping it all off. It looks okay, I think. Right, now I was going to get that specular highlight. How bright can I go? I want to make it like a bauble. Because it's a matte surface. That's two done. This one here is really dark. So crimson, and I need some of that violet as well. Ultramarine in there. Let's get this really dark in here. Not dark enough. There's a shadow being cast over here that wasn't there this morning. Paint's not flowing very well. Put some linseed oil in it. retain as much of that work that I did earlier around here as I can, because I think that's quite effective. I need a cup of tea, I do. I'm going to have to go in a minute, get one. Get dehydrated. More red in there, and here. Okay, that one's there, that one's set back, that's not a problem. I'll kind of leave that one how it is, I think. Just final one, and then it's just the finishing touches, the table shadows. Right, this one really super high chroma down here, so I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to take some of the paint off so I can get back to that transparency. Back to the crimson with a touch of oil in it to get me a really pinging red. Comes all the way up here. And it even goes into orange. Oil to this so I can move it around in a moment. I want that edge to disappear. Oh, for goodness sake. Paying attention. Darker in there, I think. Right, keep that transparency without wiping all that paint off that I've just put on. Squid Bibble. Stop squinting, Dave. Stop squinting. Right, so final thing is getting the shadows underneath and sorting out edges and the desktop colour, of course. So there are some quite, there were some other things I wanted to do as well. Yeah, there was that. I might get a clean brush for this. Rather than use this big broad brush, to lay it onto the tiny brush. Of that, didn't I? This brush maybe not the best choice. Hopefully these darks will just lift the lights even more. Don't need loads of it, just enough. Even darker, almost to black actually. Pure black now. Turn this heater off. It was really cold in here this morning. It's gone warm as anything now. ends. My iPad's suddenly having a fit. There we go. Like that. Same thing there. Not done. The little roots now. I've got a couple of options here. I could scratch them in or I could paint them in. I'm going to risk trying to paint them in. scruffy brush. Rough brush, that'll do. There we do, it's done. I'm going to leave it at that, I think, unless I spot anything else. Just get this signature done really tiny if I can. Done. Well, I now just noticed the camera's gone off. I don't know how long that's been off, but really sorry about that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed watching the painting. Till next time.